Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Market Trader Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Monday, the 14th. Well, looking at the SPY chart here, we've got a breakout in progress, and a pretty healthy one too. Very nice move out of the value area. One of the things that I've been talking a lot with Tribeca Trade Group members, specifically, talked about this, on Friday and on Sun and in this weekend's video, just trying to keep it simple, like, and just recognizing what a breakout is. And and understanding too, like, the market isn't, if you look at things like the RSI indicator, which I do, again, like, in my technical analysis and what I try to do analyzing charts, I try to be very consistent and basically use a couple different indicators that just kind of help me form an opinion. One of which, of course, is our proprietary indicator, which is the MarketWebs, which looks at something very different than most people do, which looks at volume at price, and just gives me a really good roadmap of what I'm looking at and knowing when something looks a little bit different. And once we had this breakout, now this is what, 1, 2, 3, 4 days ago. So what was that? I think this was Wednesday. Once we broke the value area, it tells me I have no choice other than to be bullish, on a breakout, breaking out of the value area for the month. And inside day after that on Thursday, and then continue it, break a further breakout on Friday, and then obviously nice continuation. So yeah, we're getting a little bit, so again, like, now it becomes, as always, when I do these end of day videos, I always feel like I'm doing a lot of critiquing, right? And somewhat, I talk more about probably negative things. And it's really a product of, like, you kind of have to, when I do these videos, I try to basically say that what I'm doing is sometimes just taking a step back, right? You have to be in this market, for the most part, optimistic, like, somewhat optimistic, right? To be an investor, right? You have to have some confidence in it. This is a confidence game, to have positions on and to have risk on, right? You can't be like complete, like, a pessimist, right? And go long the market and go long a bunch of positions. You have to be somewhat optimistic. But once you have positions on and now you're dealing with risk, right? It's very much like, I'll take the viewpoint of what one of the most famous investors, traders, is Paul Tudor Jones, right? One of the things that he always talks about is, hey, the positions that I have on, I assume that every position is wrong, right? Because you're always thinking about that. You have to embrace that optimistic viewpoint to be, to be in this game. But you also have to be a really good risk manager to also understand, what basically how you're positioning and um analyzing your positions, right? And I think in this, like, I think right now, when, if you're a person who's on Twitter or X, right, where everybody's constantly pumping ideas, right? And I respect the people that are very, number one, transparent, and number two, they're just realistic, right? I mean, we're all in this to make money, but I don't get the constant, like, trying to prove to other people how great you are, and about, oh, this setup looks awesome and it's going to rip higher. Like, that's nonsense. I try not to really follow any of those people, because they're doing something else. Like, that's like selling. And that's fine if you're selling a subscription service. I sell a subscription service too. Um, but I don't play those games because I know how hard this game is. I also don't get way over. So while being optimistic, I really try not to be overconfident, right? If you're overconfident, and the market will always humble you. It doesn't matter what stage of a bull market you're in, or what stage of the bull market is, or anything else. If you're not humble in this business, you'll suffer because of it. And most of the people, sorry to go off on a tangent here in the beginning of this video, but it's the reason why I know that people are not being transparent and doing more pumping and selling than anything else is because those people, they're not showing you their P&L for the most part ever. Every once in a while you will have some of these folks that will show you like 1 day of P&L. Oh, look, I made money today, right? But there's very little people I think that are on X and Twitter that are actually showing results, right? And every since I've known about it, every year I've entered into the U.S. Investment Championship to the USIC, and that's your barometer of like how you're executing and how you're trading in this game. It's your results, and so those people, and there are now plenty of them that on Twitter that and Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, that are on Twitter and are participating in that. And I put those folks so much higher than a lot of people who are not being very transparent in the results and just doing a lot of like pumping and victory laps. So anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because that's what you have going on like like today. You've got a lot of that, and you could use that as a sentiment indicator. Before I go any more into the video, risk disclaimer in front of you, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So bottom line, I hope everybody's trading well and doing well. I'm just saying it's a lot of distractions. Sometimes like I just won't post as much on X Twitter because it's just there's just too much nonsense that's taking place. So in any event, let's get to some after all that, after I'm into I don't know how many minutes of this video, but you just have to be careful with I think these folks. But in my opinion, we're starting to get a little bit extended away from the 5 period moving average. And, I definitely try to be a net seller as we're moving up like this. And, even the little gap up, the market was just so strong in the first hour of the day. And we're kind of like, this is also, I think has been a pattern where you're getting these, like, for example, this. Right. This has been a pattern, like, I think over the last like week where we just all of a sudden we just ramp like crazy till at some point, sometimes it's in this case it was about 9:55, sometimes it's till 10:30, sometimes it's a little bit later, and then we just kind of chill out. Like, and this was it. This was the high for the day. So the rest of it is just kind of, managing some of your open positions. And of course, this is what the Qs did. This is not what every stock did. They all look a little bit different. IWM, which actually was red in the beginning of the day, had more of a trending type day. So listen, I love trending days, right? We just don't get a lot of them. So I think number one, it's important to be participating while we're getting these trending days, because for the most part, I always say this when it's a day where it's more of the norm, where buying the close and selling the open works. That's the majority of the time, right? And again, you could Google that search. I don't have it up in front of me, but that's how the majority of money is made is buying the close and selling the open. Every once in a while, you'll have some weeks or some periods of time where we do get trending days, and you've got to capitalize on those trending days. So, and to me, like that's the easier time to make money. I really enjoy the days where it's easier to make money versus more difficult, right? Some people, they may like the more difficult days because they like challenges and so forth. But the more that you can find the easy days, the better. All right, so I'm inserting a lot of trading philosophy into this into today's video, but just kind of felt like what I want to talk about for today. Qs is going to be very interesting. This is an upside target. If you're a regular follower of my Substack, or if you're in our trading room, like I set these targets, and for like 2 weeks now, I've been talking about, hey, there's an upside VPOC up here. And it is what it is. This is overhead supply. Now, it's going to be a question whether or not can price get through this overhead supply. I don't know yet, right? And that's why I try to be a net seller into days like this. And you could see there was two VPOCs that were taken out, and this is where we checked back to, right around 11:30. Price is trying to get over this. What could maybe propel us higher? Um, you know, Very good earnings, right? Now it's going the focus is now going to shift more towards earnings. As we've already had some banks report, we're going to get more tomorrow. But watch this 496 level. So as long as you're again, this is the other part of trading that most don't really pick up on, is that for the most part, you're trying trades, you're trying to find good setups, and you're going to be long versus like the name of the game is to be long versus a level. And if the level, if price violates that level, you get out of your risk, or you reduce your risk depending on what your time frame is and so forth. But that's just trading 101. It's not so much predictive. Like everybody wants to predict and so on and so forth. But it's just getting long a level. It's getting long versus a support or resistance level, trying to stay in the trade for as long as it works, bringing up your trailing stop, right, and getting out once it changes, right, and once there's a change that happens. So, um, all right, so that's the level that I'm watching in Qs is 496. And if we start to kind of move back below there, then I'll try to be a bit more neutral and maybe just take off a couple trades. But hey, again, the positive thing here is we're above the value area for October. We're above the 5 period moving average. The goal is for now is to stay in this for as long as it decides to trend, and then make changes when something's different. IWM has been the wild card. It's funny. Again, I see some posts, and I see, oh my God, IWM is breaking out. Breaking out of what exactly? It's still in a range. Now it's just moving around in a range. So I guess some people say, hey, maybe it's breaking out above these moving averages. I guess you could say that, but it's not. My definition of breaking out is maybe very different than others. I don't see it breaking out of anything. It's just moving in a range. If we break above 223.83 and above these previous highs, then we're breaking out, right? We're breaking out of a consolidation. We're breaking out of a range, but this is not breaking out. This is just very nice momentum that we've had over the last couple of days, but it gets us right into a resistance, or getting us closer to a resistance area. So again, not my favorite trade, but I want to see what happens here around 223.83, and then I can get a little bit more bullish the small caps. But I'll tell you what's acting really well right now is mid caps. Now mid caps, that's a breakout. You want to call something a breakout? Mid caps are breaking out, and they're breaking out even better. I very rarely use the term the breaking out, because it's reserved for breaking out to new highs, right? You could sometimes say breaking out of consolidation too, but this is breaking out to new highs. Any other time that you hear somebody say breaking out, and then you look at the chart and you're like, oh my God, it's in a downtrend. They don't know. There's a lot of people who just don't know what that term means, but that's fine. I'll move on. Other things that look pretty good. Look at the equally weighted S&P, right? Out. This is also breaking out to new highs, right? QQEW is actually stronger. The equally weighted Qs is actually stronger than the Qs themselves. That's pretty good. And it tells me a little bit that some of the mega caps are not leading the market right now. And that's okay. Right. So for example, it's our watch list for the week. But you look at the great eight, as I call them, but I include 8 names in here instead of the Magnificent Seven. And I try to keep an eye on these names a couple times just to see what's going on. Nvidia has been the best one out of the group. Nice performance by Apple. The Apple chart looks fine too, but I really think that it's not this whole group anymore, right? And sometimes they take turns. Sometimes you'll see Meta go for a couple days, but look at what Meta did today, right? Basically flat, right? And I know I've been giving that name a hard time too, because I that's just what I do. Right. You're supposed to judge these names, right? You're just not supposed to fall in love with these names. Um, but Nvidia, great. This is a new closing high for Nvidia. It is just a little bit extended away from the 5 period moving average. You got a gap here too. So that'll be something to watch. That'll be something that I have to watch. I'm long Nvidia, right? So this is something that, I've got to decide what to do. Now, I did take 2 targets in this trade. Here's my trades channel. Like I took a target in this name today. And I think that was the second target, right off the bat today. And I think it pushed higher, but I got long this obviously this was last week. And then also in this space, you know, there's a few names that started higher and kind of came back today. I don't know if you realize that. COHR, which I think has been the a very strong semi as well. AVGO, this is a name I decided to get out of last week, just because I've got to manage how many positions that I've got on, right? I did get long Qualcomm today for something different. And this actually closed on its high. So let's see, I'll be long is this one for as long as it stays above 172, right? And above the 200-day moving average. So a little bit something there. I know a lot of people talking about ARM had a decent day. ARM had a really good day today, but up to the VPOC. So that would be a place for me to take profits, right? Um, of course, the one that has just been amazing the last 2 days is Upstart, right? And this is a name that's been on our watch list the last 2 weeks. Very, very strong. But I I remember trading it here. I had a nice trade, didn't move as fast as what it's doing right now, but I took this trade off here at the last VPOC takeout. And again, you could see what happened. So I'm not saying that it happens the exact same way, but you're right. You're hitting overhead supply, right? That's what these Virgin point of controls tell us. You're going to find sellers there. Now, it all depends whether the new buyers can overwhelm the sellers, but you're going to see this all over the place. I think MSTR may have taken one out too today. No, it did not. Sorry, I was incorrect about that one. But MSTR also reversed pretty decent. This thing was down, I think this thing was down 5% today. Is that right? Um, very, very interesting, this dynamic with Bitcoin and the underlying Bitcoin or futures and how names are responding. This MS, you would think Bitcoin up 4.7%, MSTR would be up huge today, right? It's not the case, and it's very funny how they're not acting as if they even belong to one another, right? MSTR has a mind of its own. It goes up when Bitcoin is going down sometimes. So again, there's different demand and supply for different situations. Coinbase had a nice day today, but that took out, I think that's the one that took out the upside VPOC. Yes, right there. So yeah, I would be a seller into that too. Anytime we start from a spot down here and there's a VPOC up here, I'm a seller into it. Right. Um, so I talked about the Qs. What has been the three strongest areas right now in the market that I see in terms of breadth and price action. Breadth, what I'm referring to is, names that, I put together this list every day. It's on Substack for you middays, but these are the names. These are the 4-week new highs, which are in green, and the 4-week new lows. So this is nice. This is what you want to see on a day like this. And if you look at the groups look at how many industrials are at 4-week new highs, right? So this is like, gives you a good sense of what's going on under the hood. Look at the financials and how many names are breaking out there. Look at tech. So these are the areas that are super strong. You've got some strength in there in consumer discretionary too, but for the most part, where the strongest names and areas have been is those industrials, the financials, and tech, right? And there's the financials breaking out after this nice consolidation. Here's the industrials, which have been also super, super strong, breaking out like this. And then tech, which looks a little bit like that Q's chart, but that also took out a VPOC. So we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen here. So I would not get complacent. I think that this market has been great the last couple days. Software is a little bit extended there. That's a little bit of a toppy looking candle. So sorry to kind of throw a little bit of cold water on the rally, but I'm just looking around and I'm trying to be objective. We know that cyber stocks have been on fire, starting like in the middle of last week as well. Really nice strength, but a little bit of a red candle there too today. So again, I'm not saying like, oh my God, this rally ends or anything like that, but maybe we're due for some of these areas that have been leading for a little bit of consolidation. So that's something that I would be watching. But here's how our watch list did. And here's another thing too. I said this to members earlier, is that so this is our watch list from the weekend. Look at how many names have triggered. That to me is a little bit too hot. I've been putting together these watch lists for a while. Sometimes the week kind of builds, and like for instance, last week's watch list, The strongest it was on Friday. So we kind of progressed through the week. This week we're starting out really hot out of the gate. And I bet you my guess is, and I don't have a crystal ball, but I think that you're not going to see as many of this as much green as we get towards the end of the week. You just don't names just don't go up 10, as a group like this, and again, it's nice to pick names and see how many of these things triggered, but you have to be realistic with everything. And I don't think that you're going to see I sorry, I shouldn't say I don't see. I would be surprised if we get this many names that continue to kind of break higher. So another thing that I would point to too, again, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here. I'm just trying to be realistic here. And I've made money this last week. It's been a great week. But you just have to be realistic with this market and have rules. Like I said, I'm going to stay long as I see SPY stay above its 5 period moving average and so on and so forth. I'm going to have positions on, but I'm starting to get a little bit worried. This was Friday's put call ratio, equity put call ratio, the lowest that I don't even think it's been as low here. Nobody's buying puts at all, right? And again, people don't like the equity put call ratio because I get sometimes you can sell calls for premium and it is a bit noisy. But for the most part, I think it's kind of telling when there's very little put activity going on. And that's what you've got going on right now. So it's a little bit of a contrarian signal. So you make adjustments. The market, it's always about making adjustments. So take a look at what I did for today, right? I took off Morgan Stanley, right? So I was going to leave this on for one more day. I wasn't going to hold it into earnings, but look at target, 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 starter, Salesforce. I don't mind getting involved in a couple things, especially like I like the setup in Salesforce, right? Nice move higher, a little bit of consolidation, retaking the 5 period moving average. Sure, I'll take it. Right. And that's the same thing with the Qualcomm that I mentioned earlier. But TRGP, look at this. This is a nice trade. Out 166, paid 155. Out of that one, right? It's a bit extended, right? Hood forced a target in this one today. I did take a target in Qualcomm. So again, as you start to get sediment and things like the fear and greed index now in extreme greed, just take a bit more off the table. That's all. You don't have to get out of the market altogether because again, I'm going to try to follow the trend as long as possible, but I'm also going to be really reasonable and realistic. All right, guys, I'll leave it there for now. Have a great night. Hope you've been killing it in this market. And again, I'm trying to do in these videos and just insert a little bit of logic and experience and try to keep people grounded a little bit so that they don't, so that they're putting money in their pocket. And when the market comes in, they don't give it all back because I see that happen a lot. And again, I think it's a more difficult environment when you do have folks on Twitter who will never show you their P&L and they're constantly pumping stocks because they know it's going to generate more subscription revenue for them. All right, guys, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.